seated at that table emitted a strange wail. It was a cry of despair that a soul might make as it rose to heaven. No, it would only be natural to scream like this if a man suddenly fell out of the sky and landed in front of someone. There was another reason here, mixed into the shocked cry. Then, what do the rest of you plan to do? Can you save me the trouble and come all at once? It's foolish to waste time on things like this. Ain's words were directed at the other men seated at the table of the fellow he had just thrown. They immediately got his meaning, and hurriedly lowered their heads. Ah. And no. Our buddy offended you. We're very sorry. I forgive you. Besides, it hardly inconvenienced me. However, you had best pay the innkeeper for that table. Of course. We will pay the full price. Just as Ains felt the matter was at an end and turned away, a voice froze him in his tracks. Wait. Turning around, he saw the woman who had made that weird cry just now. She was stomping up to him. She looked to be in her 20s or younger, and her red hair was messily cut, yet at a good length for movement. It could not be described as neat by any stretch of the word. To be more precise, it resembled a bird's nest. She had a pretty face and a keen edge to her eyes. She did not wear makeup, and her healthy body was tanned brown by the sun. Her arms were muscular and her palms were covered in calluses from wielding a sword. The word that first came to mind when he saw her was not woman, but warrior. A small iron plate hung around her chest, and it shook mightily with every step she took. See what you've done. What have I done? Ha! Don't you even know what you did? The woman pointed at the shattered table. You threw that guy over and broke my potion, my precious potion. And you. Her gaze sharpened further, and her tone became low and dangerous. Pay me back for my potion. It's just a potion. I starved and scrimped and saved to buy that potion today. And now you broke it. I've always believed that I could get through a dangerous adventure as long as I had a potion, but now you've shattered my hopes and dreams. And you've still got an attitude like that? It makes me so mad. The woman drew closer to Ains. It seemed like a wild bull had just seen red and was approaching him. Ains suppressed a sigh at himself. Indeed, he had made a mistake by throwing the man without thinking about where he might land. However, Ains had his own reasons for not paying compensation that easily. How about asking that man to pay you back? If he hadn't stuck his short leg out, this tragedy would not have taken place. Am I wrong? Ains' gaze swept across the man's buddies through the slit of his helmet. Yes, that's right. However, forget it. I don't care who pays me back as long as it's a potion, or its equivalent in cash, although, that potion was worth 1 gold and 10 silvers. The men lowered their heads. It would seem they did not have the money to pay. Thus, the girl turned on Ains again. As I thought, these drunkards wouldn't have that sort of money. Well, seeing as you're dressed in such a flashy suit of armor, surely you must have a healing potion, right? No wonder, Ains thought. So that was why this woman was asking Ains to pay up. He thought briefly about it, composed himself, and replied, It's not like I don't, although, that was a recovery potion, am I correct? Indeed. I saved up for every little. All right, I get it, that's enough. I'll pay you back with another potion, and we'll be even. Ains handed her a minor healing potion. She looked at the potion bottle in surprise, then reluctantly accepted it. This should be fine, right? I guess. The woman seemed to have more to say, but Ains cast aside his doubts. The more important thing was his uneasiness over whether Narbril would do something big and blow their cover. Narbril still had a combative look in her eyes, even though Ains had already chided her. Some of them seemed to sense her hostility and felt uneasy. Let's go, Ains curtly told Narbril. They went before the innkeeper, and Ains withdrew a single silver piece from his leather purse before placing it on the crudely made counter. The innkeeper silently slipped it into his pant pocket and returned Ains several copper pieces. Here's 6 coppers back. He placed the copper coins onto Ain's gauntlet hand, and then laid a small key on the counter. First room on the right once you go up the stairs. You can put your gear into the chests at the foot of the bed. This goes without saying, but don't barge into people's rooms without permission. Might lead to trouble if someone gets the wrong idea. Although, it's a pretty good way to let people know you. You look like the sort who can handle all kinds of problems. Just don't give me a problem. The innkeeper narrowed his eyes at the man that Ains had thrown, who was moaning on the floor. Understood. Also, I'll need a basic adventurer's kit for us. We've lost some of our things, and the guild said that you'd prepare one for us if we asked. The innkeeper looked at Ains and Narbril, and then looked straight at Ains' purse. I got it. I'll get it ready by dinner. Just be ready to pay. Understood. Then, Nabe, let's go. Ains brought Narbril up the old staircase. The wood creaked under his feet as he headed for his room. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. After Ains' silhouette vanished up at the second floor, the buddies of the man which Ains threw rushed up and began casting curative magic on him. Their actions seemed to be the spark which caused the silent tavern to burst into clamor. It seems he's as strong as he looks. Yeah, that's it. His arm strength is unbelievable. How did he train it? He must be pretty confident to carry no weapons besides those 2 great swords. Damn it, another guy's going to leap ahead of us as well. The scattered conversations were filled with awe, surprise, and fear. They all knew that Ains was not an ordinary person. The first reason for that was his impressive equipment. Full plate armor was hardly cheap, and one would need to have gone on many adventures, in other words, be an experienced adventurer, in order to purchase it. One would need to be at least a silver plate in order to accumulate enough capital for such a feat. However, some people inherited their suits from their predecessors, or found those suits on the battlefield or in ruins. That was why they wanted to take a measure of his ability. Everyone here was a comrade and a competitor at the same time. They all wanted to know the strength of any newcomers. The circumstances from just now had occurred in the past as well, over and over again. The truth was, everyone here had experienced this sort of thing in the past. However, none of them had passed the test so easily before. In other words, that pair of copper-ranked adventurers. They would be very strong, either as rivals or allies. Everyone here was fully convinced of that. Now, how should we deal with those 2? Flirting with that beautiful woman is out of the question. If only we could get them into our party. You must be mistaken, they should be in our party. What does he look like under that helmet? I'll go listen on their wall tonight. Didn't he mention the region's strongest man, Gazef Stronov? Could it be that he's a disciple of the warrior captain? That's certainly possible. Leave this task to a big-eared thief like me. As the crowd eagerly discussed the mysterious pair, the innkeeper walked up to one of the adventurers. She was holding the potion Ains had given her just now. Oi, Britta. What? The woman, Britta, turned her eyes away from staring at the red potion, and looked disinterestedly at the innkeeper. What kind of potion is that? Who knows? Oi, you don't know either? You accepted his potion as compensation, shouldn't you know its value? How could I? Besides, I've never seen a potion like this before. Gramps, you came here because you were curious too, right? Britta was right. Does it cover the value of your potion that got smashed? This might end up being cheaper than the one you bought. That's true. It's definitely a gamble, but one I'm confident of winning. This was something that guy in the flashy armor gave me after he heard the price of my potion. I see. I've never seen a healing potion of this color before. It might be a rare treasure. If I delayed and he said he would pay in cash, I'd be coming back from the dragon's den with nothing to show for it, right? In any case, I'll take it for appraisal tomorrow and find out how much it's worth. Oh, in that case, I'll cover the appraisal fee for you. In fact, I'll even recommend a good place for you to visit. You will, Gramps? Britta furrowed her brows. The innkeeper was a good man, but he was hardly a good Samaritan either. He must have something in mind. Ah, don't look at me like that. I just want you to tell me the effects of this potion. So it's a trade, then? Hey, it's a good trade, right? Besides, I can recommend a really good herbalist to you through my connections. I'm talking about that Lizzie Bearer. Britta's eyes went wide with surprise. Erantal was a place with many mercenaries and adventurers. It specialized in selling weapons and other items to these people, and among them the trade in potions was quite brisk. Therefore, Erantal had more herbalists than a normal city. Amidst this fierce competition, Lizzie Bearer had earned fame as the best herbalist in the region. She could make the most complex potions of all the herbalists in the city. Since the innkeeper had mentioned her by name, Britta had no way of refusing his offer. Part 2. The wooden door closed with a thud. The room was bare, apart from a pair of crudely made bed frames with accompanying chests. After opening the window blinds, they could directly feel the sunlight and outside air. Ains was somewhat disappointed as he finished his circular sweep of the room. Although he could not expect Nazareth-level furnishings and cleanliness in a godforsaken place like this, he still wanted to get out of here. I can't believe he would dare let you stay in a place like this, Maman Sama. Don't say that, Nabe. Our aim is to become adventurers, and then increase our fame to the point where everyone knows of us. Until then, it won't hurt to experience the life of a newbie. Ains tried to soothe Narbril after closing the window blinds, without expressing his own dissatisfaction. There was not enough sunlight coming in through the blinds to light up the entire room. Ains and Nabe both possessed dark vision, so it was hardly an obstacle to them, but for a normal person, this room would be so dark that they would have trouble seeing. Still, the life of an adventurer is pretty banal. Adventurers. Once, Ains dreamed about that profession. He envisioned them as people who chased after the unknown, and had adventures in various parts of the world. Ains had previously thought that adventurers were a physical manifestation of the right way to play Yggdrasil, but after listening to the guild receptionist, he realized that adventuring was a more realistic and more boring job than he had expected. Simply put, adventurers were anti-monster mercenaries. Although some parts of it fit his dreams of them, for instance, delving into the ruins of kingdoms destroyed by the demon gods 200 years ago, and investigating mysteries in uncharted lands, for the most part, they were simply monster hunters. Every monster possessed different special abilities, so they could only be taken care of by people who knew more tricks than average soldiers. Just going by that point, one might think that they were heroes who were loved and relied on by the common man, like in games. However, the reality was somewhat different from that. This was because the ruling authorities did not smile on the existence of armed groups which they could not control. Therefore, aside from the prices they commanded, adventurers did not have much status. Another reason why adventurers were not accepted on a national scale was because of the same thinking which made companies look for cheap, local temps than employing expensive permanent staff. Thus, much like how temps were treated by companies who could get by without hiring them, adventurers were held in lower regard in those nations which could eliminate monsters by dint of their own military power. According to the guild receptionist, there were no adventurers in the slain theocracy, while life had gotten worse for adventurers in the Baharuth Empire after the ascension of their new emperor. Ains banished his mild disappointment from his heart. It was a common thing in life to find that a job which one admired was hardly as glamorous in reality. With a brief wave of his hand, the black armor and the two greatswords on his back melted away into nothingness, and a skeleton bedecked in magic items was revealed. He wore a pair of black mirror shades and a red targeting sight. The silver circlet on his head was set with amethysts, and thorns grew from it, making it look like a rose vine. Then there were the long-sleeved shirt and slacks, made of a lustrous, gauzy black material. A black belt secured the pants around his waist. Ains took off the sturdy gauntlets, and there were rings on all his bony fingers save the left ring finger. His half-boots were made of a reddish-brown leather, and they were embroidered with gold thread. A silver necklace with a lion head pendant hung around his neck, and around it was a red cape. Magic items in Yggdrasil were made by infusing an item's skin with a data crystal, so it was quite difficult to coordinate their appearance. However, many players disliked wearing a clown suit, so after a certain update, players were given several ways to change their equipment's appearance without changing their gear. TL note: clown suit is the MMO term for a visually mismatched set of equipment only worn for their stat boosts. The suit of finely articulated black plate armor, made by the Create Greater item spell, was one of those ways. Currently, Ains was wearing sure-hit glasses, a crown of mental fortitude, black widow spider clothes, a black belt, the Jarngraver from earlier, a Nemean lion pendant, haste boots, among other items. In Yggdrasil, trading in magic items was usually done in the form of data crystals. However, there were people who sold second-hand items in order to make even stronger ones. It was at this point that a problem arose. The names of magic items made by other people might include forbidden language, or it might insult someone. Sometimes, the GMs would ask the players in question to rename the items. In general, naming items was left to the fancy of the creator. As a result, items with weird names were not very popular on the market. Although cash items which could rename them were not expensive, very few people wanted to make that expenditure. Thus, every player racked their brains to give their items good names. Sometimes the names would be in English, or they would come from mythology. Of course, there were exceptions to this as well. For instance, naming rings was very troublesome, so most people tended to call them Ring 1, Ring 2, Ring 3, and so on. Ains had even seen someone who called them Thumb Ring, Index Finger Ring, Middle Finger Ring, and so on. Ains had a friend called Warrior Takamikazuchi, who wielded two katanas from time to time. He named one of them, the eighth of its line, Takamikazuchi Mk8. The red cape he was wearing had also been named along that line of thought. Inspired by an anti-hero from American comics, it was called the Necroplasmic Mantle. TL note: in other words, Spawn's cape, all of these were relic class items. They were 2 tiers lower than Ains' main gear, but he had considered that problems might arise from bringing items which were too strong, so he settled for equipment of this level. Ains worked his shoulders and savored the sensation of being free from his armor. Just then, Narbril asked a question: speaking of which, how shall we deal with that annoying woman? Ah, the one whose potion we broke? We don't need to split hairs with her. I'd be angry as well if someone broke something important to me. Or at least, until his emotion suppression kicked in. Ains paused for a while, before continuing, well, probably. It's only natural for her to scold me for my carelessness. But all that was because a foolish human tried to provoke a supreme being. That man is the one who was to blame. Perhaps, but I was the one who threw that man. Therefore, I hope that you will be big-hearted and forgive her. What we should be doing in this city is becoming a part of this world, to increase the renown of Mammon and Nabe. It would reflect badly on us if rumors spread that we could not even pay someone back the value of a single potion. Narbril nodded, although she could not quite accept what Ains had said. Also, we should give her some face, since she's technically our senior in this field. Ains fiddled with the necklace he wore, though he kept his fingers away from the Nemean lion. If it's just a simple metal plate, then it can be forged, although that should probably be something for the guild to worry about. That small copper plate was something like a set of dog tags. It was what allowed people to know the strength of an adventurer. Copper, iron, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, orichalcum, adamantite. The latter metals were more valuable, which meant that adventurers of those ranks could select more difficult and more rewarding quests. This was part of the system the guild had developed to keep adventurers from going to pointless deaths. Ains, a freshly registered adventurer, was of the lowest class, copper. That woman was an iron plate. Showing her a basic level of courtesy was the secret of successfully blending into society. However, I feel that such soft metals like adamantite are not worthy of you, Ains-sama. A poitakara, hyricane, or other prismatic metals would be more fitting of yourself. These people in the guild have no taste at all. The metals Narbril had named were of the highest tiers in Yggdrasil. Ains turned a sharp look on her, and then said, Narbril, just to be safe, call me Maman while we are in this town. Understood, Maman-sama. Do you need me to remind you again? Call me Maman. My deepest apologies, Maman-san. Maman-san sounds kind of stupid, don't you think? Forget it, if it's hard for you to just call me Maman, then Maman-san will do. Got it? I understand, Maman-san. Once again, Narbril bowed deeply at the waist. Ains tapped at his forehead with a finger. She has no idea why I want her to call me Maman-san. She's kind of useless, forget it, there's nobody else I can use for now, so I'll forgive her. This is our plan for the future, yes. Narbril promptly genuflected before Ains. It was the attitude of a vassal awaiting orders. An annoyed Ains had no idea how to proceed. Though he had locked the door after coming in, gossip would swiftly spread if people saw this scene. Still, why doesn't she understand the reason that I want her to call me Maman? I even explained it to her before coming to the inn. With a tone of vague resignation, Ains said, "We are here to go undercover as adventurers in this city. This is because we have to collect information on adventurers, in other words, the strongest people in this world, though our emphasis will be on learning about Yggdrasil players, like myself. Attaining higher ranks will allow us to take higher ranked jobs, which will also allow us to collect more reliable and useful information. Therefore, our first objective is to become successful adventurers." After Narbril indicated that she understood, Ains told her about the things she had to do. However, there are several problems at the moment. Ains withdrew his small purse and opened it, then dumped its contents onto his hand. They were coins, and there were very few of them. There was no glint of gold among the coin. To begin with, we have no money. There were several reasons why Ains had paid with a potion during the prior dispute. One of them was because he was not confident they could solve this problem with money. Saying that he had no money to pay would be laughable. Ains turned to the surprised Narbril and explained, "No, I should say that we do have a lot of money, but the currency we have is largely Yggdrasil gold coins. Therefore, I would like to use those gold coins as a last resort." Why is that? Haven't we already confirmed that Yggdrasil coins have monetary value? Indeed, I learned from Karn village that each Yggdrasil gold coin is worth 2 of the local gold coins. However, if we use Yggdrasil gold coins here, there's no telling where they'll end up. If things go bad, the news might spread beyond to others, and it'll be a blatant advertisement to other Yggdrasil players that we're here. Therefore, we have to avoid that situation as long as we do not fully understand the situation. Players, entities on the same level as yourself, Ains-sama, and the villains who once attacked Nazarick. Ains frowned as she referred to him as Ains-sama, but he did not say anything, for the same reasons as just now. Indeed. They are people that cannot be taken lightly. His, Ains-Ulgaun's, level was the highest in Yggdrasil, level 100. However, to players, being maximum level was hardly a rare thing. It could be said that most players were level 100. Ains considered himself to be among the upper middle tier of the game's players. This was because he was focused on taking levels in classes to better roleplay an undead magic caster, and neglected raising his own power. However, given the divine class items he possessed, as well as his numerous cash items, he might be ranked in the middle of the top tier. Still, he could not take things easy. There was always a bigger fish, after all. Thus, he had to avoid being found by other players, at any cost. There were many opponents Ains could not defeat if he was drawn into battle. In addition, there were many players who were human, and they would naturally protect other humans. If these players clashed with people like Albedo, who viewed humans as inferior lifeforms, the great underground tomb of Nazarick, or Ains-Ulgaun, might very well count humanity as enemies. That was why he felt bringing Albedo along was dangerous. Still, I didn't expect Narbril to feel the same way as well. Ains did not view humanity as an enemy, but he could kill human beings with no hesitation for the sake of his goals. Even so, he wanted to avoid conflict with other players. Well, that was a waste. What was a waste? I'm talking about how we lost Nigan so easily. He had a lot of information, but he perished under such simple questioning. There were roughly 10 people still alive from the members of the Sunlight Scripture captured at Karn village. The rest died during questioning and became media for Ains to summon undead with his skills. As he recalled the information tortured out of his captives, Ains could not help but mutter, most players would want to support the slain theocracy. The slain theocracy was a religious nation which venerated the 6 gods, who descended upon the world 600 years ago. In the words of the Sunlight Scripture, the slain theocracy fought to allow the weak human race to prosper, grow strong, and defeat other species. Any player with any remaining humanity would approve of the slain theocracy's aims. Unlike his own world, where humanity stood atop all living creatures, in this world, humanity was one of the weakest species around. Though they could build such an impressive city upon the plains, the fact that they had to live on the plains only highlighted humanity's weakness. That said, plains were also dangerous places. Firstly, there was no place to hide, so it was easy to be discovered by the enemy. Only weak species, who lacked dark vision, would choose to live in a place like this. They would have no safe spaces or living room if they chose otherwise. There were species who were physically stronger and possessed more advanced civilizations than humans, but they were not in control of the continent. This was because they had ended up fighting the 8 Greed Kings, who dominated this land 500 years ago. Humanity was one of the few survivors of that war. If not, the human race would long since be extinct. Any players in this world would want to help out humanity. That was why Ains was on guard against players and kept his distance from the slain theocracy. In any case, I plan to sell off the swords taken from the slain theocracy troops pretending to be knights, but before that, we need to get a job. Understood. Then, shall we visit the guild again tomorrow? Indeed. Although I'd like to learn more by walking around this city, we should leave that for after we've earned some money. I see. As a battle maid, I shall carry out your orders with all my strength. Is that so? Then, I'll be counting on you, Narbril. Ains felt a warm glow of satisfaction as he watched Narbril bowing deeply. Then he cast a spell, and was wrapped in his armor and illusion once more. I will be inspecting our surroundings. You will stay here and wait for orders. Please allow me to come with you. No, I'm only looking around the neighborhood. I've heard of a large graveyard which I want to visit, and the other reason why you're staying here is to ward off intruders. You must stay on your guard and never slack off. While I don't think there's any vulnerabilities in our defenses for the moment,